first thing I remember is the sharp, sterile sting of antiseptic and the hollow rhythm of a heart monitor. The walls around me were a blur of hospital white, too clean, too bright, too quiet. I had done it. I had actually collapsed, right there in the middle of my final round interview. The one interview that was supposed to be my lifeline, the ticket out of the grinding exhaustion I called life. I was 20 years old, humiliated and hollowed out. My throat burned when I tried to speak. I fumbled for my phone with trembling fingers, desperate for some kind of warmth. A text, a voice, something. I didn't even know what I wanted. Maybe comfort, maybe proof that someone cared. I opened the family group chat and typed, "I'm in the hospital." I collapsed during my interview. Then I stared at the ceiling. Minutes bled into hours, nothing, not a single word. When my phone finally lit up, relief flared, then died. It was a message from my mother. "Jennifer, your father and I have decided you're too selfish and demanding. You are no longer a part of this family." I stopped breathing, the words blurred, and before I could even reread them, another notification appeared. My sister Ashley had reacted with a heart. Read it didn't feel real, but it was. I didn't cry, I didn't even ask why. Something inside me, something that had been bent and stretched for 20 years, didn't break. It straightened. The fog in my head cleared, replaced by a kind of cold, steady clarity. My hands stopped shaking. I peeled the adhesive tape off my arm and pulled the IV out myself. The heart monitor screamed into a flatline, but I was already sliding my legs off the bed. I wasn't weak anymore. I was done begging. My laptop glowed in the dim hospital room. The login screen of my father's banking portal blinked back at me. My dad, Michael, lived for numbers. An investment banker, a man of data, not emotion. 2 years ago, when I started law school, he'd made me co-administrator on the family accounts. "You're the responsible one," he'd said. "You'll make sure everything's done right." I was supposed to be the safety net, the sensible daughter. Now I looked at the ledger, a record of every transaction, every lie they'd ever justified. Pending transfer, $10,000, Ashley/startup seed money. Upcoming transfer, $8,000, Ashley/networking event. Automatic payment, family mortgage, Atlanta. The reflection of that glowing screen flickered across my face as I read the last text from my mother again. "You're no longer part of this family." Fine, I thought, then I shouldn't be in the family finances either. This wasn't revenge, this was math. My fingers moved with precision. New password, security questions changed, freeze all active accounts, cancel transfer, cancel again. Cancel everything. In 5 minutes the empire they'd built on my silence collapsed. I wasn't shaking anymore. My pulse was calm. My chest felt light. For the first time in months, maybe years, I could breathe. The truth was, I'd been running on fumes long before that hospital bed. My apartment in Chicago was barely bigger than a closet. One window, one creaking radiator, one life held together with instant noodles and caffeine. I was a second-year law student and I was drowning. By day, I worked as a research assistant in the university library, parsing case law for a professor who barely remembered my name. By night, I slung drinks until 2 a.m., my shoes sticky with beer and sweat. All of it, every exhausted morning, every skipped meal, was for that one shot. The internship. The week before the interview, my bank balance hit $63. I couldn't afford a blazer or a meal that wasn't starch and salt, so I called my mother. I remember trying to sound casual. "Mom, I have this big interview. I was wondering if I could use a small part of my trust fund, the trust my grandfather had left for me. $500,000 meant for my future." Her voice turned to ice. "Evelyn, you're an adult now. You can't just come running every time you need something. Everything's tied up. Your father and I are overextended." My stomach dropped. "But Mom, it's don't argue with me," she snapped. And she hung up. I sat there staring at the cracked paint on my wall, my pride collapsing in slow motion. I told myself she was just being strict. Frugal. Maybe things were tight. Then I opened Instagram. Ashley had just posted a photo, posing beside a brand new white Tesla, champagne glass raised, a designer jacket hugging her shoulders. So grateful for my #1 investor, Mom. Big things coming for my startup. My heart clenched. They were overextended. Yet she had a Tesla and a startup that didn't even exist. I didn't sleep for days. I studied, I worked, I starved myself to save for the bus fare. And when I finally made it to that interview, that one chance, my body gave out. When I got back to my apartment after the hospital, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. It was Ashley. I let it ring 3 times, then I answered. "What did you do?" she screamed, her voice shrill enough to pierce glass. "My accounts are frozen, my card declined." "The transfer for the launch party, it's gone. What did you do, Evelyn?" I sat down on my torn sofa. My voice came out quiet, cold. "Mom said I'm not part of the family, so I removed myself from the family finances." "You can't do that," she shrieked. "I need that money." "That sounds like a you problem, Ashley. You're jealous, you've always been jealous of me." No, I said, I was just tired, and I hung up. Seconds later, Mom texted, "You've created an absolute mess. You're selfish and destructive. Your father will hear about this." Selfish, destructive, the same word she always used when I needed something. 2 hours later, my aunt tagged me in a Facebook post. My mother's words, polished and public. It's heartbreaking when children forget the sacrifices their parents made. We gave her everything, and this is how she thanks us. Praying hands emoji. Hundreds of pity comments. That was the moment I stopped feeling guilty. They weren't ashamed. They were just angry I'd stopped being their victim. By that night my plan was set. This wasn't family drama anymore, this was fraud. I called my faculty advisor, Professor Davies, the one who'd recommended me for the internship. "Evelyn," she said, her tone sharp but concerned. "I heard what happened at the interview, are you all right?" "I'm fine," I said flatly, "but I need a lawyer." She didn't hesitate. "I'll make a few calls, check your email." 2 hours later, I sat in a glass-walled office overlooking the Chicago River, facing a man named Harrison, calm, methodical, terrifyingly efficient. He listened without interruption as I explained everything. When I finished, he leaned forward. "Miss Hale," he said, "do you authorize a full forensic audit of all family accounts tied to your name, your father, and the trust?" "Yes." I slid my laptop across the table. Still open to the frozen banking portal. "I want a complete accounting, every dollar, every transfer, 5 years. I signed the retainer agreement, my signature didn't shake. 3 days later, Harrison called. "Evelyn," he said, "the preliminary audit is done. Your father's flying in, we need to meet." When I entered the conference room, my dad was already there, pale, rigid, silent. Harrison didn't waste time. He opened a thick red binder and slid copies to each of us. "What we found is extensive," he began. He started with the obvious, Ashley's fake startup, her $10,000 monthly investments. No business license, no revenue, no incorporation. Then he turned to me. "Evelyn, the trust fund your mother said was tied up, it's gone, every cent. Over 18 months, she transferred $500,000 in small increments to Ashley's account." My father's hand went to his mouth, his eyes closed, but Harrison wasn't done. "2 months ago, when the trust was empty, your mother took out a second mortgage, $200,000 on your family home in Atlanta." My father stiffened. "Impossible, I'd have to sign that." Harrison tapped the document. "She forged your signature, and Evelyn—" Silence filled the room, cold and absolute. "She committed bank fraud," Harrison said simply. My father didn't speak, he didn't yell. He just stared at the page, at his own falsified name, and something inside him hardened. By the next morning he had filed for divorce. He froze every joint account, every credit card. By noon my mother's financial kingdom had collapsed. 3 weeks later there was a knock on my apartment door. When I opened it, I barely recognized her. My mother, Jennifer. Her perfect hair was a mess, her coat wrinkled, her face swollen from crying. "Evelyn," she whispered, "please, you have to stop this. Your father's divorcing me, they're foreclosing on the house. Think of your sister, she's losing everything, she has nothing left." Her fingers dug into my arm. "Please, Evelyn, do something." And in that moment I realized, even now, even after everything, she wasn't thinking about me. She wasn't sorry, she was still protecting Ashley. I turned, walked to my desk, and picked up a single folded paper. When I handed it to her, she blinked. "What is this?" "That," I said quietly, "is a copy of the criminal complaint I filed this morning for bank fraud and aggravated forgery." Her face drained of color. "Goodbye, Jennifer." I closed the door. "It's been a year. The divorce is final. My mother pleaded guilty to 2 counts of financial fraud. No jail time, probation, therapy, community service. The family home was sold to repay the debts. Ashley's startup vanished. The Tesla gone. The luxury apartment gone. Last I heard, she was bartending in a dive bar. Ironic symmetry. My father and I, we talk twice a week. He's been in therapy, learning to understand the years of lies he didn't see. Last week we had dinner overlooking the Chicago River, the same skyline that once watched me fall apart. He turned the glass in his hand. "The therapist explained it," he said quietly. "Your mother saw Ashley as her reflection, her do-over. But you reminded her of what she'd never be. You were independent, capable, and that made you competition." His eyes met mine. "It was never that you weren't enough, Evelyn. It's that she couldn't stand someone who didn't need her approval." I swallowed hard, the ache in my chest loosened. "I know," I said. "The real pain wasn't collapsing or being broke. It was realizing that when she saw me struggling, she chose not to care." My father reached across the table, resting his hand over mine. His grip was steady. "I'm proud of you," he said, "for surviving, for fighting back. For the first time in years, I believed him, and for the first time in my life, I finally felt free." Thanks for watching to full video. Please subscribe and like.